Easy. Money. I was less involved. I was indoctrinated into the financial system that we all have. I had rich friends in London. I lived a life through them, and I wanted to live the life for myself. But as time went on, I realised that none of it really mattered. I think the key point was the moment I didn't care about the way others perceived or thought of me, and then I realised I didn't need anything. I you know, the age-old money doesn't buy happiness. There is an element of that for sure. There's no doubt about it. I've learned far more with nothing than when I've ever had something. And I think that for me has been the guiding light, so for me, so to speak, drawing me further away from being motivated by money to being motivated by purpose. Anxiety nearly every day. And there was periods of time where I just didn't know what I was going to do. And even now, as a startup, you have ups and downs. Like nothing is linear. There's good. You have one day you're like, oh, you're on cloud nine, and the next day something happens. Naturally, you get anxious in that given moment. And you're like, problems. You're constantly solving problems. I think just as time goes on, you learn how to regulate those emotions. When good things happen, you go, okay, that's great. And when bad thing happens, it's okay. We'll solve the problem. Whereas in the beginning, and particularly when things are more difficult financially, there's less of an understanding of where you're going. There's so much more uncertainty. Your emotions are like this, up and down, and the anxiety. I can remember so many nights where I just sat there in bed like 3 a.m. twiddling my fingers, thinking, "What on earth am I going to do? How am I going to get there?" But I think those difficulties, those struggles, that process that you go through is key for you being the complete player, so to speak, to be able to actually execute it and eventually be able to execute it. Because if you didn't have those experiences, you wouldn't be able to be that cool under pressure when things are up and down. You learn to almost, when things are up and down, you still manage to regulate your emotions accordingly. And that all comes from the experience of those anxious moments. Well, I think the first thing is focus. Focus was always my issue. I've always been a dreamer. I've always had these grand ideas. I've always believed I could take on something. I believed I had the capacity to do it. And I knew without a shadow of a doubt that I had the grit and determination to never give up. That links back to my childhood where I got kicked and punched every day for the best part of 5 years. And I got up every time. Someone punched me, I got up. Someone kicked me, I got up. Someone called me names, I was a bit annoyed about it, but I got up again. That attitude gave me the grit and determination to know that I would never stop. And I think because it meant that it gave me the time to rewire myself, all the negative aspects. It gave me time to rewire myself almost to understand the negative parts of me which were going to hold me back from achieving what I wanted to achieve. The negative aspects of me that didn't make me the complete player. The negative aspects of me that meant that I was more likely to, inverted commas, fail. By having that grit and determination, never giving up attitude, it gave me the opportunity to completely rewire my thought processes, to firstly become whole with myself, and secondly, give myself a much greater understanding of what it takes to make sure a startup is successful. Yeah, but it is a bit out there. As time went on, like some really strange spiritual things happened to me where I went through different states, I believe different states of consciousness. People might say closer to God. I like to say it's closer to the divine. And there were things that happened which I think they're very personal to me, which redirected my thought process and made me believe that there's something far, far, far more in this world than ourselves, and that we have a far greater purpose. And those, inverted commas, divine moments that occurred to me, where I, no word of a lie, actually saw the light, I think that transformed my way of thinking and just took my thought processes in regards to what is plausible I could achieve to another level. I'm constantly conscious of everything that's going on. I read the room immediately. I understand people's motives quite quick. And because of these things, I'm conscious of making the right decisions much faster than what I did before. I think, in a startup, acting fast is really, really important, and it's quite easy to procrastinate sometimes. But when you're conscious of everything that's going on around you, and you're that almost psychic ability, borderline psychic ability to understand what's going on, it gives you that ability to act far faster. And by doing so, have a better chance of getting things right within the business. Gym, man, like exercise is so important to me. Like if I'm having a bad day and it's stressful, and because in a startup, some days you have good days, some days you have bad days, you have ups, you have downs. We talked about anxiety before. My go-to place is I go to the gym. I try to walk as much as possible. Staying active is key because your mind is everything. And if you can keep your mind in a clear place, and I always find that exercise does that for me, you can ensure that you are working at 100% and making the best choices on a day-to-day basis. I think mindfulness gives you the edge, to be honest. I mean, if you're lacking that understanding of what's going on around you, what you truly are, who you truly are as a person, you might perceive you have the edge because you live in a world where money is everything and financial gain is everything. You might have this perception, this egotistical vision that you are it because you make the most amount of money. Sorry, mate, you ain't. The reality is, if you're lacking inside yourself, you're lacking with everything. And it might feel good to make money and be in a place of wealth at that given moment, but in a place of fulfillment, in a place of purpose, if you're lacking in those places, you're always going to fall behind eventually.